Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming on tonight. It's just before 6:30, so we're just going to wait for a couple minutes before we begin. Carol, are you all set to go?
I am all set. Are you ready for the PowerPoint?
Do you want to share that, or do you want me to grab that?
The PowerPoint? Tell me when you're ready and I'll put it up.
Okay. So thank you, everyone, for attending our meeting tonight. I'm hoping everyone was able to log on without issues. I don't know, have you looked out the window? It doesn't look great out there. I feel like a huge storm's about to blow through and pull all our internet. So positive thoughts. Thank you for attending, and I'm excited to give you an overview of our current work on our full remote teaching and learning tonight, and the progress that we've been making on bringing in certain populations of students into our school to start the school year on Tuesday the 8th. So Carol and I made a PowerPoint. We're going to present that. Just give us a moment to pull that up. Carol, I don't see it yet. Do you? Okay, I'm going to try it a different way.
Yeah, Jack, are you still on?
I am.
That's right. I'm gonna pull it. Okay, at this point, you should see our first screen. So let me tell you who is here tonight on our call. I'm Kris Gallo, the principal at Krista McAuliffe, and Dr. Carol McCarthy is our assistant principal of student services, and she's our producer tonight, so she's going to be helping us out. And also Jack Dunn is on, and he's our business manager at the district level, and so he'll be helping us out if we have any issues with our Microsoft Teams tonight. So let's start with the purpose of our meeting and the protocol. So we want to share expectations for students and for families, and we're using the Microsoft Teams platform tonight to hold this meeting. So please bear with me. This is my first time using Microsoft Teams, and you're my first audience. So we're going big or going home. So the setup. So apparently you are, you'll see me if I stop presenting, but most of the time you'll just see our PowerPoint. The setup does not allow you to speak. You'll type your questions as you think of them into our question and answer section. And Carol will be watching for those chats. At the end of the meeting, we'll have a question and answer session. And we hope to be able to answer every question, and we'll do our best. And if you have any questions specific to your own child, I would say to please contact me or Carol directly, and we'll include our emails and our phone number at the end. This way we won't have to answer a lot of questions about just specific kids. This meeting is being recorded, so we'll post it to our website when we are finished. So to begin, our work around teaching and learning was designed around our district's guiding principles to ensure health, well-being, and safety of everyone, supporting students toward attaining grade level and course competencies, creating positive school community, fostering social emotional growth, and supporting the needs of our most vulnerable populations of students. So to kick off, we have staff coming back this week, and there are going to be 6 days of professional development with our staff. We're looking forward to that. In the past, we've had 1 or 2 before the school year starts, and this really gives us a lot of time to dig into a lot of different topics together. So some of the trainings that we'll be doing as a full staff. By full staff, I mean everyone, from teachers to support staff. We'll be trained in suicide prevention, know and tell training and reporting, anti-racism training, Title IX harassment and bullying, COVID procedures, technology trainings, math and literacy trainings, and instruction and assessment. And these trainings will start now and continue throughout the rest of the school year and beyond. And while we're on the topic of trainings, our digital learning specialist will host tech help sessions for our caregivers. Once our teachers make some final decisions around technology in the next 6 training days, we'll have a better sense of the kind of training we need to do for our families. We'll hold a K1 session, and we'll also hold a grade 2 to 5 session. Teachers will be receiving their class lists when they return this week, and I know that they're very excited to start reaching out to families to help them connect with one another. I have had many requests this summer from families for contact information about other families in their child's classroom, but I haven't been able to legally provide that information. But I do understand families' interest in wanting that and to form these connections. So once we get going, teachers will be able to facilitate some kind of sharing between families so that you can feel connected during this remote experience. We are also looking forward to having some meet and greets so that we can meet our students and our families, and for picking up materials. So let's look at that schedule. Take a look to see if you can find your grade level, and I'll give you a moment so you can mark that down. So these meet and greet sessions will be outdoors, and they're scheduled for Wednesday, September 2nd and Thursday, September 3rd. At this time, you and your child will be able to pick up supplies, materials, your technology device, and your student specific schedule that will be designed by their classroom teacher. We'll also create schedules for sending home updated materials every couple of weeks. We're trying not to send everything at once because we simply don't know everything that we're going to need at once. So every couple of weeks, we hope to send home new materials. We'll also schedule a virtual back to school night with our families, and we'll do that later in September when we normally have our back to school night, and you'll be able to learn about the grade level curriculum and ask those kinds of questions. So our meet and greet protocol. So you're coming with your child on September 2nd or September 3rd for a 2-hour time slot, and we're going to have masks and 6-foot distancing as mandatory to ensure safety for everyone. You and your child will have the opportunity to meet the classroom teacher in a designated area outside, and you'll receive supplies, materials, your tech device, and the specific student schedule for your child. We ask that you make your visit pretty brief so that others will feel comfortable approaching the teacher without overcrowding becoming an issue. But as you depart the school, it is our hope, you might not want to tell your kids yet, so our hope to have prepackaged ice cream sandwiches for each student. Our PTO is very generous and they're on this right now to make it happen for us. And so I think it's a pretty good chance it'll happen. In regards to the school day, what to expect. So after the spring remote learning, we sent out surveys to parents, to staff, and to students, and we received overwhelming feedback from families to provide predictable daily schedules with frequent live teaching. So district-wide, we've created a schedule from 7:45 to 2:30 to mirror an in-person school day. We know that our students have fallen behind. We know that from this past spring. And we understand that it's important to provide a full year's curriculum this year, whether we're remote or not. We are committed to that. And personally, I think it would be shameful for us to offer less to our students. I do hear a lot of questions from parents about screen time, and I want to acknowledge those concerns. We're aware that a long amount of screen time is not ideal. So I do want to emphasize that live interactions are very different than watching recorded lessons and doing online programs. You can expect live teaching from teachers, from classroom teachers, from specials teachers, from special educators. And these live interactions and interactions with peers will happen in reading, writing, word study, interactive read alouds, math, specials classes. During these instructional blocks, it won't be teachers just talking the whole time. Teachers will give a short mini lesson to introduce a new skill for all students. And then the teacher will break up the instructional block in ways that make sense. So it might be a meeting with a small group from their class to continue direct instruction and guided practice. And other students will be working independently on assigned tasks away from the computer using paper and pencil. Our goal is to maximize personalization during this pretty lonely time for our students. You can also expect that your child's schedule will look a little different on Wednesdays. We're shortening the lessons and the student expectations in order to allow our teachers to attend special ed meetings with administrators, have planning times with one another and trainings. And you'll see this reflected on your child's schedule when you receive it at the meet and greet. You'll notice that Wednesday will look a little different. The Department of Education requires us to take attendance every day. So we're going to do that at 7:45, just like we would on a normal school day. 7:45 to 8:15 is going to be our half-hour morning meeting across the school, across grade levels, actually across all the elementary schools. So the first half hour is to connect, to build relationships, and develop some positive culture and camaraderie amongst the students. We hope that all students will attend, especially this morning meeting. And if a student is late to joining their school day, it's okay. We have the ability to mark them tardy so that they won't show up as absent. So we do understand that this schedule doesn't work for every family out there. We know that. So some students may need to access their work at night when their caregivers are home. Some students will still have the ability, all students, I'm sorry, will have the ability to post their work at night. And we're hopeful that we will all become adept at perhaps just recording our own voice when teaching a mini lesson to our kids so that when you or they go to do the work, you'll have something to refer to. So hopefully our mini lessons in math and reading and writing will be recorded for you to refer to. I absolutely understand that our decisions will make some of our families happy and make some of our families pretty frustrated. I get that. And I know we'll face issues And we'll continue to check in with families to try to understand those issues and to problem solve them over time. You do have our commitment to that. Finally, we're working with our local daycare centers who are supporting hundreds of our Concord students during the school day. They're staffing their centers in order to support these students throughout their remote school day. So that was a lot of information on one slide. I'd like to show you a snapshot of our master schedule, not to make your eyes bulge, but just to give you an understanding that we're still working on the same kind of schedule we've had in the past. You can see that each grade level has a specials class for 45 minutes in yellow. You can see in the pinks that every grade level still has lunch and recess built into the schedule. You can see our IE blocks. Those are intervention and enrichment blocks where we know that our students are going to be coming back to us with some big gaps in learning, and those intervention times will be essential for us to help fill in those gaps. We don't want to plan on everyone being behind, but we are certainly prepared to deal with any students who are behind. And for students who are not, that IE block is also for extending their learning opportunities. In terms of breaks, I've had a lot of parents ask about that. There'll be several times throughout the day when students are working independently on tasks, just like they would in the classroom, where they've just had a small group with their teacher and now they're off doing some independent work. So those are natural times in the school day for breaks, to grab a snack, but there'll also be times where teachers will work in motor breaks with kids and build in some snack times as well. In regards to students who will be in our building with us, we've almost completed all our contacts with families whose children fall within special education, 504 with direct services, English language learners or ELL, and our homeless students. So we do have a staffing capability to support these students for direct instruction based on their specific learning plans. We can also support their general ed instruction from within the school, the general ed instruction that they're receiving remotely for the remainder of their day. So although their direct services will be in person, the remainder of their day will be remote with their classroom teacher, but we will be supervising kids and supporting them as they do this. If we have enough staffing to bring in our kindergartners who require direct services, we will do that. We do not have enough staff to bring in our kindergartners for an entire school day. We do have enough staff to bring them in for their direct services. We will be reaching out to our kindergarten families within the next few days. All students who are coming into school for direct services will not be able to attend in person in our building on Wednesdays. Wednesdays are for the deep cleaning of the building. So all learning will occur remotely outside of the building, whether that's at home or daycares, but it won't occur in the building to allow for deep cleaning. A couple things about being in the building. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, masks are mandatory. And we know that some of our little guys are going to struggle with that, and we will keep working with them. If we're ever in a situation that's unsafe, we'll keep working with that student, but they won't be around others while they're practicing wearing a mask all day. And we'll keep working on that, and we'll figure it out. Temperature checks. All staff and all students will receive a temperature check at the door. We are going to ask our parents to go through a checklist that you'll receive from the district office. An entire COVID protocol is coming your way, and there's a checklist of questions that you want to do with your child every morning before sending them off to us. And the same questions are asked of our staff as well. If there's a no to any of those questions, then the staff member or student will not be permitted to enter the building for the day. And also temperature checks need to be under 100 degrees. And at any point during the day, if any of those symptoms from the COVID protocol are prevalent, we will be isolating a student. Outside's the best place. If it's too cold or if it's raining, it'll be in our gymnasium where we can spread people out very easily. And student will need to go home, or the staff member. So that's all the information I wanted to share with you. What we're going to do now is take questions from our chat. I think you may be able to see them as people were typing them, but Carol is in charge of those, and what she's going to do is let me know what those questions are, and we'll do our best to answer them. Again, email or call us about questions specific to your child. We don't want to address those tonight in front of everyone. And if your question does not get answered tonight, please contact us at our email or our phone number here at school. And just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded and will be posted to our website. So thanks for listening. So much information as I went through it. And Carol, I'm turning it over to you.
Okay, thank you. So there were 2 questions that I did answer that I published. So I'm hoping that people could see them, but I'm just going to go through them. One was, will we be sharing the presentation? And I answered that, yes, this is being recorded and it will be available on the district's website. Kris, anything to add to that?
Perfect.
The second one is, are children going to be with the same teacher assigned to them at the end of last year, or will the classes be rearranged? So I think I might have misread that. I took it that would they have last year's teacher, but if last year's teacher did let them know who the teacher was at their next grade level, those are the teachers that they will still be having.
Yes, that's correct. I did receive some requests to move students around, several requests to move students around due to pods that families were putting together. By doing that, our classes would have really been skewed in many ways, and so we did not reassign any students. They will still have the same classroom teacher that was assigned to them on their report card last spring.
All right, so here's a question about assessment. How will assessment change for families? What are the proficiency expectations for our kiddos?
So our proficiency expectations are what we always have. We're going to do pre-assessments at the very beginning of the school year. We're going to do our best to do our reading benchmarks. We're doing our best to do some exit tickets in mathematics to find out where students are around our power standards in math. And then from that point on, we probably won't see a whole lot of like in mathematics, a whole lot of end of module assessment, more so a lot of formative assessments along the way, every week checking in, assessing students' understanding. Same with reading, we'll just do benchmark assessments as we go. Writing will look very similar in terms of there'll be a focus on 4 different domains of writing. And within those domains, there'll be specific skills that students will be learning, and they will have longer writing blocks of time, up to 45 minutes. We don't expect that students can sustain that just yet as we start school on the 8th, but our students will be writing pieces within those 4 domains. Carol, would you add anything to that?
No, that's great. Thank you. Next question, if we can't attend the meet and greet, how can we get our children's materials?
I would say to just contact me or the front office, Deb Jory, and one of us can get information to the classroom teacher if you don't have that contact info yet from your classroom teacher. because the point of the meet and greet is to make contact with that teacher, just to see each other, say hello, and also to receive supplies and the technology device. But we will definitely accommodate families and what works for them. It may also be helpful if you could let us know what time during the other meet and greets. It's the 2nd and the 3rd throughout the day, pretty much from 8:30 to 3 o'clock. So if there's another meet and greet you could attend, perhaps the teacher could scoot out of a meeting if they're available. If not, we'll figure out a time.
What about the fact that the Y and the Boys and Girls Club will not run 7:45 to 2:30?
It's an excellent question. I share that question. I think that we're going to do the best we can to figure out and to work with them how to extend those hours if possible. And if that's not possible, then we need to figure out how to accommodate for our students. There's no penalty to them. It's the onus is on us to ensure that they receive their curriculum. The onus is not on these clubs, and I am so grateful to them for offering such a long day of support for remote learning. It doesn't cover all our hours, and so we'll keep working on that. But if your child is missing some instruction, then that's on us to figure out how to make sure they receive it.
Next question, will the little kids have a chance to play? This isn't like school where they will get to hang out with their friends.
Well, I'm going to play, and I'm going to make Carol play. So our kids definitely are going to play. Yes, we definitely will still have breaks. We want to get outside as much as possible. We want our learning to happen outside as much as possible, as long as the weather cooperates. So throw a coat on your kid and throw a sweater on. We want to be outside. We still have recess times. So we want, for the kids who are here, we want to make this as normal as possible. The biggest changes are that we have masks on out, in the building. When we're out of the building, if we can maintain 6 feet apart at recess, the guidelines have said that we don't have to have masks in a case like that. And so I do know that the guidelines have been changing very frequently day to day, but we'll keep up on them. But we want your child to have a normal experience, as normal as possible.
What is the plan for those kids who can't engage well over Zoom and can't participate?
We know that's going to happen, and that's going to be an individual effort with every family, because the same answer isn't going to work for every child. Our school board has voted for remote learning, and so it's a question that goes right up to them as well as the principals and the teachers. We know that some kids will do well and others won't, and we will expect you to reach out to us, and we'll reach out to you to keep problem solving. But the directive from the board is remote teaching, and the schedules our teachers are teaching are 7:45 to 2:30, and they won't be teaching beyond those hours. And I know that constricts a lot of the things you're able to do with your child, because you're not accessing your teacher during the nighttime, and that may be a time when you're free. And so I know remote learning is tough, and we're trying to make it as interactive as possible, which is different than last spring, where it was more lessons through video, and this time it's lessons with a teacher and with peers in live interactions.
What about the mental health for children who refuse to participate in this intense schedule?
The mental health for children who refuse to participate. Well, I think I'll try to just answer it as the mental health. In terms of our morning meetings, we want to have a whole half hour of time with social and emotional learning curriculum. This could look like lessons from our Choose Love program, or it could just simply look like some fun and some games, and ensuring that the teacher is tuned in to every student and how they're doing, hoping that every student will participate, at least in morning meeting. And for those students who we don't see, we will absolutely keep following up with you as the caregiver as to where they are, what kind of support they need. Do they need more from us, from our guidance counselor, from our school psychologist, from these folks who have the expertise to really help them in terms of their mental health? Carol, I'm not sure I understood the full intent of the question. Is there anything you want to add?
No, I think it had more to do with just worrying about, kids who can't sustain the schedule as it's written.
Okay.
What do the initials and colors mean on the daily block calendar? So on the schedule that you showed.
The IE was the intervention enrichment block. At the very beginning, there was MR and MM. MR is morning routines and MM is morning meeting. Those are my little codes. You don't have to worry about that master schedule, by the way. That's code for us. I think specials was written out. Recess and lunch were on there. And LA is language arts. And there may be a few others that I don't remember.
Word work, WW maybe.
Okay. That should be about all of them.
Do we have the staff to switch eventually, move back to a hybrid model?
Oh, that's a good question. At that point, central office will reach out to staff to find out what their status is. I don't know that information for right now.
Are supplies included?
Yes, we will include supplies and materials, a tech device for K2, that's iPads. For 3 to 5, it's Chromebooks, and the specific student schedule when you come to the meet and greet. And then every couple of weeks, we'll send home some updated materials as well.
And students are also receiving supplies in terms of glue sticks, scissors, paints, markers, notebooks for writing, whatever the teacher wants to use. And also math books will be going home.
Yes, and our art teacher also, and all the art teachers have put together art kits to send home to students as well.
Will the 3 different classes in one grade level be in sync with material, or will everything be different by teacher?
The plan is to be as in sync as possible in terms of all the curriculum. The one that'll vary the most is reading by nature. Not all students read at the same grade level, but in terms of the mini lesson they receive, all students will be receiving the same mini lessons, the same interactive read alouds, the same writing instruction, the same math instruction. And so it's just really the specific book that a student will be reading within their guided reading group that'll change, that'll be different from student to student.
So this one is talks about the district level decisions and recognizing that these decisions came from the district, but for parents who are trying to figure out childcare plans, how can they continue to perform their jobs not knowing more about scheduling information until September 2nd? Expressing some frustration and then 3 questions based on that, but I don't see 3 questions.
Okay. Well, in terms of the schedule will always be 7:45 to 2:30. And so I'm not sure if the question is about exactly like where math is during the day or writing, but you can always expect the same schedule for Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Math will always be at the same time, writing at the same time. Wednesdays will look a little different, but in terms of, what was the second part of the question?
How can they perform their jobs not knowing more about the scheduling information until September 2nd?
I'm So I'm not sure exactly the schedule question and how that impacts how the parent helps, but what it makes me think is that what this parent is asking, it's a very good question. How do any of us help our kids with their remote learning? It's not everyone's expertise. We're teachers because this is what we love and we're skilled at it. But yeah, I can understand parents' frustration and wanting that information sooner. Our teachers aren't working right now, so we can't develop those schedules. And when they're back, I know our teachers are going to work really hard on those schedules.
What's included in the supplies for students? I think we covered that. And here are the 3 questions. So can you give more information about times during the day?
Are you showing my PowerPoint right now or me?
No, I'm showing you right now. Do you want me to go back to the PowerPoint?
Yeah, see if you can do that. If not, I probably can.
It should be on.
Okay, so again, it's a bit cryptic with all those codes, but you can find your student's grade level. And if you can read those times up top, then you're pretty good. So morning routines and morning meeting end at 8:15. And then each of those little slices are 5-minute blocks. So it'll give you at least a general time during the day when your child in their grade level has language arts or mathematics. So let's just leave that up there for a minute.
Okay. Ready for the next one?
Sure.
Is there flexibility with morning meeting first thing? Some childcare has adjusted their hours later and sibling drop-off may be a conflict. Will tardies be held against students' progress?
Tardies are never held against students' progress. They're just data that the Department of Education requires that we send them at the end of every school year. No names are ever attached to tardies or absences. It's just numbers that we send to the Department of Ed. So I don't want you to think that your 8-year-old is in a lot of trouble because of absences or tardies. That's not the case. Flexibility amongst the morning meeting, unfortunately not. This is our schedule that we're adhering to across the district, and I know that I understand that is frustrating if it's a schedule that doesn't fit into what you're able to have your child do. Carol, you can put me back live if you want.
Next question, I think we probably answered. Will all of the students across the same grade level have the same work each day, regardless of teacher?
Our teachers are going to be working together collaboratively, and it makes the most sense to be assigning the same work. Now, with that said, we know our kids aren't robots and all require the same thing. So if I'm teaching a specific skill in mathematics, I might have students that are doing some more challenging problems where others, I'm still trying to get them caught up to that level. So as much as we're going to be teaching the same standards and the same skills at the same time across the grade level, please know that your child's work might look a little different than another child's work, depending on where their competency level is at any given time throughout any school year, not just for remote learning. But to answer the general question, yes, you can expect that the teachers within the grade level are concentrating on the same materials.
The YMCA and Boys and Girls Club schedule doesn't start until after the morning meeting. How is that supposed to work?
Yeah, we went through that one.
Yeah. Could you please explain the varied lunch recess schedules for each grade? Different lunch recess times might be hard to manage for siblings in different grades.
Can you say that again?
Yeah, it's just referring to our lunch and recess schedule is really designed for in-school learning. So it's saying if you're home and
Oh, okay.
you're overseeing three kids with remote learning, they all have a different break time and lunch and
Yeah.
recess time.
Yeah.
So that's hard.
Please, I encourage you to have your child eat lunch and take a break as needed. If your child needs lunch a full hour before or after we have it scheduled, and that's when they eat their lunch, and they can eat while they're doing their work. This schedule is designed so that when we, fingers crossed, switch to hybrid learning, then it's a smooth transition. This is the schedule we'll be using. So that's why this schedule is designed more toward in-person learning and being able to supervise kids throughout the day for recess and lunch at school. And our hope is that remote does not continue for very long. I know that the board meetings, the superintendent's been talking a whole lot about looking at it by the end of September and looking at COVID cases. So if that's the case, we did not want to revamp our schedule completely again into a new one and then really confuse a lot of people.
Is it possible to see some examples of what the content will look like from a student's point of view?
By example, I'm assuming a student schedule. I don't know exactly.
I don't
What do
know
you think?
either. I'm not quite sure.
Or maybe the question is around, so what does my student do? They'll receive a link, a Zoom link to log on to, and they'll have some instruction. They'll do some work offline. I'm not sure if that's what the parent's asking.
They can send another question to clarify also if we didn't answer that. Next question. Last year, teachers were able to mute and unmute students, and parents were expected to sit with the students to manage their Google Meets. Will they be better able to manage virtual classrooms this year, or will parents be expected to manage it all?
What's nice about the new Zoom program that's coming out is that it gives us more power in that mute world. So we could mute students, but they could unmute themselves. With Zoom, I believe that we can mute them and have them stay muted until we unmute them. Zoom also gives us the ability to create breakout rooms if we wanted to do that. So I might be teaching for 10 minutes with my entire class, and then I want to meet with a small group. I can send my other students off into a breakout room virtually with another adult, if that's even possible, with some staffing, some support staff in our building or remotely from our building, or students could just work independently in their home. And teachers will make these decisions together and make these decisions in the best interest of what kids can handle in terms of their age and their technology prowess. But Zoom is supposed to give us a lot of nice features that we didn't have with Google Meet. And we are waiting to be trained in this new platform of Zoom over the 6 days of staff training. So that I don't know a whole lot about it yet, but just know that we have a whole lot more flexibility with this platform than we did with Google Meets.
Next question, what will assisted instruction for special ed students in the building look like? And then for example, how many students in one classroom at a given time?
Well, that is what Carol has been working on forever, so I'm going to let her answer it.
So instruction, the way we have set it up is that we have pods of students at a grade level. And we have right now no more than 10 students. I think we can fit 12 into a classroom and abide by the distancing, but we have between, I think it's 7 and 10 at the moment. So the way we've set the pods up is that there will be one professional staff that oversees each pod, and then we also have 2 to 3 support staff in that pod as well. So it's a good ratio of 3 to 1, and sometimes even fewer than that. Our special educators, our speech and language person will be in the building. Our occupational therapist will be here 2 days. So students will receive their direct therapies and direct instruction throughout the day, the same way they would if they were in school for general ed. And then we will support them in the remote piece. So they will all have their computers here. We will get them signed on for their math lessons, their reading lessons, their guided reading lesson. And if you go back and look at the schedule, the I/E is called our intervention and extension block. That's typically when we try to fit in interventions. And so we will try to stay as true to that as we can so that students aren't missing general education.
Thank you.
What technology will you be using?
So in terms of student devices, K-2 have iPads and grades 3 to 5 have Chromebooks. And then I'll let our digital learning specialist fill in those blanks when she does the tech training for caregivers so that you'll know specifically what teachers have decided to use. I know there's a plethora of choices for folks to use and that we're going to be doing trainings on and making decisions about. So I would say stay tuned for that training to happen within the next couple of weeks.
And then other technology apps will include some of the same ones that we've used in the past. So like Lexia, and we'll still have RazKids for certain students, and
Zern for math.
And Zern for math. IE is intervention and enrichment, but what does MR/MM/LA SS/SC stand for in the master schedule?
I think we went through all those. The only one I didn't was science and social studies, ESS and SCI. Yeah.
Will kindergarten be a priority to get back in the in-person learning?
Yeah. I would love to see our youngest ones here all the time, every day, full day, regardless of services or not. I think it's really essential that they be here. It's not my decision. It's the board's decision. I encourage you to communicate directly with your board members to let them know how you feel about it. You have my support.
For kids who are in school, will they be bused to and from school? I can answer that. For students, some students are on special ed transportation, and we continue to offer that. For students who are also in the bus zone, if families need and want transportation, we would provide that. Students who are in the walking zone would not get transportation, but I will say that we're hopeful that most parents will transport because of distancing on the bus, and we're finding that most parents prefer to transport. If my child has an IEP, will they definitely be in school 4 days a week? Not necessarily. There are some students who are on IEPs that we didn't recommend all day. There are some families that have just chosen to have students come in for the actual services that are in the IEP. And then there are some students that will be here all day, but some students that just have a minimum number of services such as speech and language, and those students who are really close to grade level that don't need the academic support, we haven't invited them all day. Kris had mentioned, oh, go ahead.
I would just add that if this parent hasn't received communication from us, then definitely reach out, because we have not had success in reaching every family. So if you're one of them, then definitely please call us.
Yes, and then Kris had talked earlier about kindergarten. Right now, we don't have the resources to bring our kindergartners in all day, every day, but we do have the resources to provide direct instruction based on what's in the IEP if parents choose to do that. And we haven't reached out to most of our kindergarten families, but we'll be doing that. And then there are also parents that prefer remote. Will the school hold the same academic standards as if it were live in-person instruction?
Yes, that's our goal, and we'll learn as we go along. And we've set a very high bar, and we've heard that from a whole lot of voices that it's a very rigorous schedule, especially one to do through remote learning. But without that high bar, we can't guarantee that our students will receive a full year curriculum, and that's really important that we shoot for that, because for many students, they need more than a full year. They need to get caught up from last spring, and we need to do our best in filling in all those gaps.
If my child receives Title I services, will that happen in person or virtually?
Title I services will happen virtually.
My concern is actually about kids who are uncomfortable on Zoom and have a hard time interacting.
Yeah, I think that's a reality.
Yeah, we talked
that
about that.
some students will struggle, and we have to keep problem solving that while we're in remote learning.
Mm-hmm. And I think this one we answered. Do we know what platform will be used? Google Meet, Zoom, Teams. Will there be guidance for the kids to be able to log in?
Yes, our teachers will, well, first of all, we'll do some technology trainings for our families before school begins, and then our teachers will definitely be problem shooting with students as they're grappling to do that.
Is it possible?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying, it reminded me that in the spring, our teachers made a lot of calls to families to problem solve how to get someone logged on. And I foresee that that might happen again.
Is it possible to receive the assignments at the beginning of the week and work on them throughout the week and turn them in on Friday? For example, if childcare issues prevent a child attending school during designated remote hours.
If it were a normal school year, I would probably say we could work with that request because teachers, are pretty well planned out ahead of time. The fact that we're in remote learning, I think, makes that very difficult to implement. Our teachers are doing a whole lot of planning ahead of time. However, the tough part is that we don't know yet exactly what our kids don't know. And when that happens, teachers change lesson plans on the fly all the time, and they're going to be they're going to be making decisions and changing their plans on a day-to-day basis. So if we were to send a week of plans, I guarantee you that many of those assignments may not be the ones that ended up happening day to day. And I know that's hard for a family, but I just don't think it's an expectation we could meet at this time.
Will recess and lunch still be coordinated via screens or remote, or will they be a full break and then students will rejoin afterward?
My vision is that we'll join afterwards. I think it's important to get away from that computer and go play and go eat, and not everyone likes to watch people eat anyway.
And that's also the teacher's lunchtime also.
True, yeah.
Can a K-1-2 student use a home Chromebook instead of a school-issued iPad?
Yes, except there may be programs that are specifically designed for the iPad. There'll be some learning apps, so it's possible that they could use both. It's a question to work with the teacher around, and possibly even our digital learning specialist.
What platform will virtual instruction take place?
That'll be Zoom.
That, yeah.
And we'll be using Google Classroom again for the older kids for turning in work and receiving assignments, and Seesaw for K and 1 for pushing out work and posting work back as a student.
Will students be considered truant if they are not able to attend all live classes?
The Department of Education's definition of truancy is missing 10 half days of school. So as soon as a student hits that benchmark, they are considered truant. Again, it's not as, and if that were to happen in a normal school year, we would contact the family, we would work with them around getting the student back to school. If that didn't work, we would contact our truant officer, or we would, if there were real big concerns that the student wasn't following through, we would be contacting DCYF. Now that's in a normal school year. If a student's not attending during the school day because their caregivers aren't around to support them and they're not doing their work until nighttime, that student is still participating in our minds. That's not something that we need to panic about. The unfortunate part is they're missing their live instruction and they're missing their interactions with their peers, which is such a huge part of school. But that's the downside of remote learning, to be honest. So I don't want you to panic that if your child is doing their work, that that we're still going to go down that road of reporting and sending the truant officer. We will only send truant officers and make DCYF reports in cases where there truly is no participation by a student.
Will interactive teaching time be aligned across grades? So in other words, will siblings have matching online and independent work times during the day?
Well, I'm assuming the siblings are not in the same grade level, so that would not be aligned.
Could parents be provided pacing and unit guides so we could anticipate what is coming down the road so we can prepare in order to help them and teach using the same methods as the teacher?
We'll have a general idea of where we're, of what our pacing is through the year, but again, that's going to change a whole lot from week to week. And we have our reading specialist who will be working with teachers around all the literacy components, and based on what kids know and are able to do, we may be able to stick with those guidelines. In some cases, we may need to really slow it down and hone in on some skills. Same with mathematics. We have our year map of our power standards and the modules aligned to those standards and the competencies. But if we need to halt for many reasons to fill in gaps, we will be revising those constantly through our collaboration. So those maps exist, but they're not ones that I would share and say, here you go, this is what this year is going to look like. It's everything's definitely in flux.
Can you share a little more about Wednesday? Is this going to be a shorter day?
So it'll be a shorter day of learning for our students, definitely not for our staff. Our students will have a shortened specials class of 20 minutes. They'll have a reading mini lesson. They'll have an interactive read aloud. They may a teacher will have a guided reading group, and beyond that, that's pretty much the length of the student's day. Teachers, however, are still, they'll be working with our math specialist, Chantel DiNapoli, around math planning. They'll be working with myself and Carol around administrative issues. They'll be working with one another on planning times for instruction and assessment. So the student schedule will be shorter.
How will specials work? Will they have a different one each day like you do when in normal school, or will it be different?
Thank you for saying that. I forgot to mention that. Our specials are going to look different this year. With personalization being really important through remote learning, the best decision for specials is to keep a student's class lined up with one specials teacher at a time. So within a trimester, a student will have a few weeks of one special with that one specials teacher. And then after those several weeks, they'll switch to a different special and so on. And so they'll see all their specials within the trimester, but they'll be for consecutive days so that there can be some relationship building and some community building with that teacher.
The next two are on Wednesdays, and how that will be different. So we've answered that. If students need to be evaluated for possible special education services, will this still occur according to the timelines set forth by the DOE? And will it be in person? I can answer that. Yes, it is in the same timeline. If you have been listening to the governor, there are no exceptions, and the DOE is very clear about that. And there are some possibilities where some assessments could happen remotely. And I don't want to speak for everybody because I would always defer to the professional doing the evaluation. But I do believe that at least for academic evaluations and probably some speech and language, it would be in-person assessments.
Thank you.
What do our teachers need from us? How can the parents help make this easier for them?
That is such a kind question. Thank
Yes.
you. They need support. They need to know that you're willing to help out however you can, and that's going to look different for every family. And they just need to thank you. They need to know that we're here to support them and to make sure that if they're good, then our students are good. We need happy teachers to help make happy kids.
Mm-hmm. How much notice will we receive if there is a change in school format? For instance, changing to hybrid full classroom.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know that. I think we'll learn that over time with our school board.
What parents need to know is when they can schedule their own work calls and work conferences.
Yeah, and if you're so after 2:30, the school day's done, but during the school day, I think once you have your child's schedule, you'll be able to see where their different instructional blocks are, and you'll see where recess and lunch is. You'll be able to, over time, predict a little better where their independent work is going to fall, although that could always change depending on shifting groups within any instructional block. But I think that'll, having that student schedule will be very helpful to families.
Yeah, and I think this next one is along that same line, wanting to know when my child will not be on Zoom. So some of that has to do with the schedule, and some of that will have to do with when the teacher wants children on small group instruction.
Yes.
This is very nice. I don't have a question. I just wanted to say thank you so much. This is hard, and we're grateful for everything you are all doing. That's very nice.
Thank you. We're grateful for you too. We know this is hard for you.
Last year, teachers were able to mute and unmute students, and parents of younger students were expected to sit with them to manage those meets. Will they be better able to manage virtual classrooms this year, or will parents be expected to perform that role?
Well, teachers will have the ability to mute and unmute students. I'm not sure that a teacher working remotely with a child can really do a whole lot of management of that child's body through a computer screen. I think every family needs to figure that one out for themselves. Our teachers are very gifted when it comes to working with children with all different types of behavior issues. That gift is seen in person, and it doesn't always translate remotely.
Yeah, I would also add that, it was a huge learning curve for everybody, families, students, teachers, support staff in the spring. And I feel like we've gotten much better at designing lessons that are interactive and engage students a little bit more. So hopefully that will make a difference. We do recognize that a lot of parents needed to provide the support in order to keep students engaged. How much total screen time per day will be expected for a first grader or fourth grader? So
that's going to vary day to day, and it's not even just grade level. It's a math block, a writing block will have a mini lesson to start off for all students, and then a teacher at that point will move to small groups to provide more direct instruction at the more specific level for the students in that group and some guided practice, while others are working independently. In writing, there'll be small groups or individual conferences on writing pieces. So it's always going to look different depending on what the skill of that lesson is and what students are being asked to do that day. And that's probably a pretty frustrating answer because you just want a number. I know that.
Pam McLeod answered this, but in case people didn't see it, apologize if this was asked, but are Chromebooks being distributed? And yes, they are. And we posted the schedule for the meet and greets, and hopefully we'll have them ready to distribute on that day. For those of us with students in multiple grades, would all of the teachers be using the same media platform for engaging students? Yeah, and we answered that also. Is it too late to schedule an assessment for a 504? It's never too late to have those conversations. 504 is it's a legal process like an IEP, and just if you have questions about that, reach out to myself or Barb Franzim, our school counselor. How will links be sent? Will it be the same meeting room each day for each class? Will a calendar be set up? 6-year-olds will need to be able to find their classes on their own, so I'm hoping it will be presented more consistently for kids to be able to access it independently. Some parents will not be available to get kids on each new Zoom meeting at various times during the day.
Yeah, it'll definitely be as easy as possible. By the end of the spring last year, a lot of our teachers just had a code that if you needed to just be hooked in with them, you just typed in that same code each time. So we'll make it as easy as possible. It may not be just one code. The specials teachers would have a different one than the classroom teacher. But yeah, we need to set that up so it's pretty darn easy for everyone.
Yes, and Pam McLeod has responded that she will provide that feedback to our digital learning specialists as well. How are teachers doing and how can we support them?
Teachers are stressed.
Thank you.
They
are.
They are. They're not, obviously, they're not working yet, but they've spent the entire summer stressing. And they've spent a lot of time talking with one another and doing planning already. I can tell you the Krista McAuliffe staff is second to none. They're hard workers during the school year and during the summer months. I have no complaints about that. And I trust when they get here that they're going to go 0 to 60 pretty quickly, and their work's always impressive. And so I just want to share with you that you just saying thank you is going to go a long way.
Should English language learner students be in school? Is it mandatory? So it is not mandatory because we've given everybody the option of remote learning if they're not comfortable having students back in school. But our ELL students are in the population of students that we did invite back. We have reached out to most of them and still have a couple that we haven't heard back from. This seems like an unreasonable schedule for families. What are the consequences to Concord schools if I choose to homeschool my children?
There are no consequences. That's a personal choice to homeschool, and we would support that. So, Carol, would you add anything to that answer?
No, you just need to write a letter and submit it to central office, and then they let us know. that that student is being homeschooled. If they are a special education student, there are no special ed services for students who are homeschooled. Is the meet and greet going to be in a drive-through format, similar to when we picked up the contents of lockers?
It will be quick, but it won't be drive-through. So we definitely want people out of the car. We want you to come up to our outdoor spot. We want you to meet the classroom teacher with your child. We want to make that connection in person. It can't necessarily happen too well in the car. Although it'll be a very brief interaction, I think it's a pretty essential one to start the school year. And plus you hopefully get ice cream too on your way out.
What will the protocol be if one student is found to have COVID? Will you shut down the school and have it cleaned before the next?
If a student is found to have COVID, we'll have assigned seats. And so the protocol is to contact trace where that student was and who had been around them and for what period of time, and then to follow that process. Also to contact DHHS and put those processes in place, and then for that student who is suspected, there's a protocol. And I'm glad you mentioned that those COVID protocols will be sent home to families very soon throughout the whole district. I know they are complete and we've looked through them, and you should be receiving that very, very soon. And it'll have much more specific answers than the one I just had.
Next question, when will children be evaluated for compensatory education? So we have held all of our compensatory education meetings with the exception of some entering kindergarten students. Our plan is to, and when we're talking evaluate, we're talking about district assessment. So we want to see if students regressed, if they maintained their skills, or if they actually made progress during that period of time from March 16th to June 4th. So as soon as we can, we want to know students' present levels. We also want to give them a little time to be back at school to see if they regain anything that they might have lost during the remote learning. When we're talking about compensatory ed for students, we have filed with the DOE to make it go through next summer because we don't want to do any remote compensatory ed. It's necessary to have students here to try to make up any skills that that we find a deficit in.
Thank you.
How much parent involvement will be expected, especially for multi-kid households?
I think that depends on the level of independence of the kids, and in terms of elementary school, there's probably not a whole lot. So I think there will be a lot of hand-holding at the beginning. Again, I'm hoping that we're not in remote learning for very long. If I haven't said that already, I want us to be back here in the school building. But yeah, I think that at the beginning, it's new. It's a weird way to do school for kids. And so I think they are going to need that kind of guidance.
Are we asking teachers to be consistent with daily and weekly schedules?
Yeah, we've answered that one.
Will parent students be expected to print out worksheets every day in the morning? Last year, we printed everything on Sunday night for the week.
No, we you won't be needing to print unless you want to print. We're sending home like math workbooks and papers that we know we want our kids to have physical in their hands. Otherwise, other assignments can be done remotely, and that'll change by subject, that'll change by grade level, that'll change over time depending on what a student is currently working on.
Will there be a supply list provided for what we should purchase to have at home for our kids?
Please don't buy any supplies. Concord School District is always very generous in terms of giving out all supplies that are needed by students to the students. We don't ask the parents to provide anything. Even in a normal school year, the only thing that we ever ask for is that you provide your child with a backpack and a lunchbox. And even if you don't have those, we provide those too.
I'm not sure if this is referring to a previous question, but I thought you lost money if families pull out of Concord School District.
I don't know the money behind it. I don't think you need to worry about money for the Concord School District. I think you need to just focus on what's best for your family.
Do you have more information on the cost of the YMCA question? The programs at the Y?
I don't remember seeing that number. I remember seeing Broken Ground. Susan would kill me. I remember seeing at Boys and Girls Club $35 for a child, but I don't remember the rate for the Y.
Yeah, I don't either. What if a vaccine comes along?
Let's get it.
Yay. And I highly ask that we consider having students practice writing and not just typing for gross and fine motor skills.
Yeah, you'll find that our teachers will send home to you a writing tablet, a writing workbook, those marble composition books, that's the word I'm looking for. And for the younger ones who need bigger spaces between their lines, teachers will send home that paper.
Yeah, and we talked about that also. I mean, it's great for the gross and fine motor skills, but also in just getting them off from screen time to work like that is good.
And that is a goal, to get them off of screen time.
Yeah. That is it.
It is.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, who just ruined it?
An answer to the YMCA. It is $150 a week. Thank you for that answer.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any others pop in?
So we might have a little lag here. So
we'll give it about 15, 20 seconds.
Yeah.
All right. So barring any future questions coming in, thank you all for your participation tonight. And we thought it would be about an hour. It was an hour 15, so that's not bad at all. It's a pretty good estimate. And there were great questions asked, and I'm not convinced that I was able to answer all of them to your satisfaction, and I apologize for that. It's a tough situation. I'm not a huge fan that we don't have our kids back in school. I want them back here. And we're going to do our best to give them a full year's curriculum in a remote style until we hear any differently that we're not doing remote learning. So I appreciate all of your listening skills and your questions, and look forward to those COVID protocols coming home to you, and obviously a lot of other information from me and Carol as it develops.
All right, we have a few more things. Kris, we are so grateful that you are our principal. Thank you. I share that. And
did you say that, Carol?
No, I didn't. I didn't, but I share that sentiment. And this says, excellent, thank you. What if the vaccine becomes available, but we do not vaccinate in our household? Will it be required?
That's such a good question. I don't know that answer. I don't even think it's probably in our COVID protocols at this point. But yeah, I'll find an answer for you. And oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and if you have specific questions around your child, to contact me and Carol.
Someone else says the Y hasn't announced a fee, so maybe someone knew it was $150, and the Boys and Girls Club is $135 a week.
Oh, $135 a week. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Hopefully I can sneak a peek at you at the meet and greet in a couple weeks. I hope you're all well. Take care. We'll post this to our website. Bye.
Bye-bye.